Hi guys. It's about 6:40 p.m. here. Was checking in with you guys. My daughters, my son-in-law, and my grandbabies went with me last night to the worship in the park event that I told you guys about. And it was really nice. There was a lot of people there. And it was just a nice time to be around people that love God and just wanted to worship the Lord, listen to some Christian music and sing along. They had some food trucks there, a bit pricey in my opinion, but the music was good. We sat in some lawn chairs and just sang along. The babies got some glow sticks and went out and played. We just spent a couple hours there, and it just really touched my heart. It helped me because my family was there with me. But it was just nice to feel like I was a part of something, like an event that was for God, and that I knew the people there came there and wanted to be there because they wanted to show their belief in God and they wanted to praise the Lord. And I told my daughter I didn't know how much my heart needed that time with my family and just praising God until I got there. And it was just really in my heart, just peace and excitement, but just loving on the Lord was really nice, and to feel like I was around people who were of same accord as me. So it just felt really nice. If I'm being honest, this weekend has been pretty hard for me. I don't really know why, except of course I'm going through the separation and I'm still going through the grieving process. I'm trying to keep myself busy, and of course the burden that I feel over recent events and everything that have been going on in the United States. But I think that I've just had a sadness just for everything, but I think I'm still processing my separation. There'll be times that I'm just fine, and then there are times that I'm not. There are times, especially this last week and even at the event, that I just felt sad because there are certain things that my partner would have been responsible for doing, or not even responsible, it's just something that he would have done, and then I realize that that part is missing. I know it sounds so simple, but it's really not. Like, an example was, we drove to the event, we got there, and then I realized I forgot to bring lawn chairs. Like, this was a park event, they had a stage, but you were supposed to bring lawn chairs to sit in because they had no seating there. And I didn't bring any bug spray. I didn't feel prepared. And that is something that my partner would have automatically done. Like, he would have planned out, he would have had our wagon with all of our lawn chairs and blankets and drinks, and he just would have planned all of that out. And I would not have had to think of any of that. And then when we got there, he would have set everything out, he would have made sure I was comfortable, and throughout the evening he would have checked in on me to make sure, are you okay? Do you need anything to drink? he just showed that tenderness to me, and it made me sad. It made me sad not to have that. And there's been a few times this week that things have happened that I've realized, hey, he's not here. It's okay. Just because you don't have a lawn chair, things will still work out. Just because you're not as prepared this time, it's okay. Just because the outside flower bed needs weed eated and you haven't got to it yet, it's okay. And to try to tell myself that you're not a failure just because you haven't done those things yet. You're not a failure because you didn't think about those things. It will be okay. And to also think, for some people, this would have been a breaking point. And in my earlier years of life, this would have been my breaking point, in a moment where I would have reached out to my ex and I would have just basically just, whatever it took, please just come back, please just come back. Because I would have thought it was a sign to say, oh, you miss this person, this part of your life is not here anymore, and this is a sign that you guys need to be together. I would have tried to, or I would have thought that these were like signs and signals that I need to be back with this person. But this time, it was different. This time, I went through the emotion. As you see right now, I'm going through the emotion, and I'm processing it. And it's okay that I feel sadness, because I realize that things are not the same. Things are not how they used to be. And it's okay to be sad. But that doesn't mean that I have to run back to this person. It doesn't mean that I have to try to do whatever in my power to get back into this relationship. This person made a decision that they wanted to move on with their life, and they wanted to pursue something that they wanted to pursue a life that was not on the same path that I want to be on. So just because I miss them, and I miss the experiences that we had, and I miss things that were in the old version of my life, doesn't mean that I have to give up who I want to be, the path that I want to be on. It just means that, okay, you're sad because you had a partner to help you. You're sad because in those instances, like the example that I gave about when we went to events, so if I would go to a birthday party for, if my daughter invited me to a birthday party or a cookout or something like that, just because you miss that this person took the time and effort to plan and to take care of you tenderly, does not mean that you have to be with this person if they're not on the same path as you. It's just an emotion that is letting you know that for any future relationships, whether it be a partner, a friendship, whatever it is, that's something that is important to you. It's important to feel like someone cares enough about you to take care of you sometimes, to treat you tenderly. So this emotion is not to try to point you back to this person necessarily. It's just to let you know what your values are. So now I know, hey, I really, really miss that. So now I know that one of the values, one of the things that I value, one of the things that should be in relationships that I have is that reciprocation of tender, loving care for one another, help for one another. So where I might do good in one area, the other person may do good in another area, and we complement each other. It just means I value that. It doesn't mean that I have to go running back to someone who's on a different path than I am. I also sat at that worship in the park, and I felt like I feel at peace here because I know that the people that are here want to praise and worship God, that they believe in God, that they want to obey Him, and that they want to know what the truth is, that they want to walk as Jesus did. Like, it just made me feel a calm. And something that my daughter did say, and it brought to my mind, is that the person that I was with, either one, probably wouldn't have wanted to go to that event, or two, would have gone but not enjoyed themselves, and then in turn would have made me feel great anxiety or guilt, like I wanted to go there. I wanted to enjoy myself in worshiping God, but all the while in the back of my mind I would have been worrying about this person, their experience, that they didn't want to be there, or that I was causing them to do something that they didn't want to do. So I thought about that, like, I don't want a partner that doesn't want to worship God. I need a partner that wants to worship God as much as I do, that wants to pray with me, that wants to uplift Jesus as much as I do. And that kind of did make me sad. It made me sad because right now, the person I was with isn't there yet. And I say that because I still hold in my heart that God can change the heart of anyone. So just because He's not at that point yet does not mean that He cannot be there if He's open to God. So I'm praying, I still pray for him. I still pray that God would open his mind, open his heart, open his understanding, and that one day he would be more comfortable with God, that he would be more open to allowing God to move in his life, more open to praying. I still pray for all of that, and I want to see that in his life. I just did have those thoughts when I was at the event. Like, I want to share this experience with someone so badly. Like, I just want to share the experience of Christ, because it's the most awesome thing I have ever experienced. And for some, I can't even explain it. And that's why I just want someone to be able, I just want everyone to be able to have their own experience with Christ. Because as soon as you have your own personal experience with God, there's nothing like it. And then you can talk to others that have had their experience with Christ, and you can feel it between the two of you. You can experience it, and you can be excited together. You can pray together. You can worship together, because you know what the experience is. That's what I want out of life, regardless if it is a partnership, a friendship, whatever it is. I would like to find like-minded people that have had the experience with Christ, who I can just conversate with, get their testimony, just their story of how did you meet God? What happened in your life? Why do you believe in God? And what parts of Him are you still getting more information on? What parts of Him are you still learning about? Or what parts of Him are you wanting to know more about? Like, that's all I really want in life, is to just be joyful with other people about God. So, yes, I have been pretty sad this weekend, even with all of the good things that have been going on, even with the worshiping event. Even my kids came to see me today, my youngest daughter, my youngest son, and I call her my daughter-in-law. They aren't married yet, but my daughter came to visit me, and I made beef tips and mashed potatoes, and they just came over, hung out, we watched a movie, and so there's been nothing wrong with this weekend at all. I've just been sad, and I'm just processing that. Just sadness for what I have experienced that I don't have right now. Sadness because the things that I value in a person I don't have right now. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't been a good day or anything like that. I've just been processing sadness, and that's okay. I did continue to read this weekend Genesis, parts of Genesis, and I did write down something just briefly for today. I was reading Genesis 21, and Genesis 21 is about the birth of Isaac, and which is Abraham and Sarah's son. And earlier in Genesis, it explained that Abraham and Sarah had not been able to have children, and Sarah decided to take it upon herself to try to give Abraham an heir by having him sleep with her servant, basically. And the servant got pregnant, but God told Abraham that he was going to have a child through Sarah. So in chapter 17, I'm just going to read you a quick bit of it. In chapter 17, God was speaking to Abraham, and he said in verse 16, I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her, meaning Sarah. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. And then God said, yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. And Isaac means he laughs. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And then I'm skipping over to chapter 18, verse 10. And in this chapter, this was where the three visitors visited Abraham, two angels and the Lord, and was going to speak to him about Sodom and Gomorrah. But prior to that, they were talking to Abraham, and they made mention again of Sarah having a child. So they said in verse 10, then one of them said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, as she thought, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. Then in Genesis 21, it says, now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, yet I have borne him a son in his old age. So God made a promise to Abraham and Sarah. They both laughed at the prospect of having a child because of the age that they were at. And he was 100, she was 90. And so they laughed at the prospect of that because he was old and she was well beyond childbearing age. So they didn't really think it was going to happen. And then when it did happen, of course, they named him Isaac, meaning he laughs. And then Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. So after it occurred, she said, God's brought me laughter and everyone's gonna laugh with me. God made a promise they didn't think was physically able to take place, and then it took place and it brought her laughter, and she said that everyone will laugh with her because of this. God has brought her laughter. So when I was reading this, this is what I wrote down. Sarah has Isaac, meaning he laughs, and in verse 6, Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. What is the Isaac in your life? The things that God has promised to you that you might have laughed about in unbelief, or said that you're too old, or you're to fill in the blank. Whatever the circumstance that makes you feel like it's impossible, what do you feel like time has robbed you of? Because they felt like they were too old, right? So time had robbed them of having children. Or what do you feel like you physically cannot do? They were 90 and 100 years old, well beyond childbearing age physically. So what do you feel like you are too late for? So do you feel like time has robbed you from something? Do you feel like it's too late in the game for you to do something? Or physically, I can't do fill in the blank. Mentally, I can't do fill in the blank. I'm too old. I'm too fat. I'm too whatever it is. For myself, I can tell you a few things that I've thought in my life. Especially now, going through separation, of course, I've thought to myself, I'm too old to find a partner and to have a godly marriage now. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm 46. I'm almost 50 years old. Like, I can't keep going through this. So maybe I will just be alone. To think that time has robbed me of certain things is something that I do think about. Like, I'm too old for this. I'm too old for that. Have you ever said that in your life? Or when I felt like I had shame, guilt, because I felt like I turned my back on God. I felt like I had failed him. And then even the thought of trying to start again, I would think, there's been too much time. Too much time has passed for me to be able to start again. I'm not young and energetic like I used to be. I feel tired, physically, emotionally. Sometimes I felt like I just can't make a difference. I didn't feel like I had the energy inside of me to be able to have a godly life. I also struggle with the thoughts of, maybe because of my age. Age has come up a lot for me lately. I don't know if I'm just having a hard time processing my age, but age is something that I'm struggling with lately. Feeling like I'm too old to be in another relationship. I'm too old now to get out of the rat race of the workforce, when all I ever wanted to do was be free so that I could evangelize. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to evangelize. And I feel like now I talk about it in past tense because I feel like time has so much time has passed that time has robbed me of being able to do any of this stuff. Being able to have a marriage, being able to have a godly life, being able to get out of the rat race. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. Yeah, they keep pushing back the retirement age, but when is my life ever going to begin? Meaning the life that I really want to have. Or I'm getting older now. I'm not as energetic. I am not as I guess I want to say like a childlike innocence when I first started serving the Lord. I feel like I don't have that because of some experiences that I went through. And so I feel like maybe I can't make as big of a difference because I don't feel like I'm exactly the same as I used to be. So sometimes I do feel like I have fallen into the trap of telling myself it's just too late. It's too late for everything, so just be okay and accept this life. Abraham and Sarah laughed because the Lord promised them a son, but they were too old physically. They were beyond childbearing age physically to be able to have a child, so they laughed at that because in their mind, how can that be possible? It's too late for all of that. Like, too much time has passed. And yet, God delivered on his promise. And then Sarah said, God has brought me laughter. So my question is, what is the Isaac in your life? The thing God has promised to you that you laughed about in unbelief or said that you were too old to something, not physically able, not mentally able, that time has robbed you of this. It's too late for that. Whatever the circumstance is that you feel like this will never pass because this particular circumstance makes it impossible. Whatever that is, you need to write it down. Write down what you believe God has promised to you, and write down what the circumstance is that you believe that promise is impossible. Because absolutely everything is possible through Christ. If God promised it to you, there's not going to be time, there's not going to be a physical ailment, there's not going to be a mental block. There is absolutely nothing that will stop God from fulfilling his promise to you. As you see with Abraham and Sarah, it didn't matter that in this physical realm that she was beyond childbearing age. When God speaks, everything has to align with His word. Everything has to bow down to His word. When God speaks something, that is what it is. His authority is the ultimate authority over everything. So if it's something physical that you feel like is the circumstance blocking God's promise, that your body must align to the Word of God. A mental block, your body is renewed with the mind of Christ. And if it is time, God knew the plans that He had in place for you before time began. So His will for your life stood before time ever began. God's word was before time ever began. He is the beginning. There is absolutely nothing that is impossible for God. So when He tells you something is going to happen in your life, stand firm on that. Write down whatever it is you feel like God has promised you and the circumstance that you feel is stopping that from happening. And then I want you to document that is your Isaac. That is your Isaac. And you laugh. You laugh at it now. And when God fulfills His promise to you, you be like Sarah and say, God has brought me laughter, and everybody else is going to laugh with me. God promised me healing. I didn't think it was going to happen because physically my body is not working properly. This is my Isaac. And when God heals your body, I want you to stand up and testify. God has brought me laughter. And everybody else is going to laugh with me. If God has promised that you're going to be a teacher, a preacher, an evangelist, if God has promised anything to you, if God has promised you a child, and you just have not seen it yet, and the doctors are saying that one or the other of you can't have children, if God has said it, it will be so. There's not a doctor on this earth that can say anything that trumps the Lord's word over your life. If you feel like God has given you a direction to take in your life, but you feel like you can't get out of the rat race, you're too old, or whatever it is, let that be your Isaac, and you laugh and you wait on the Lord to deliver that promise to you. And when He delivers it, you say what Sarah did. God has brought me laughter, and everyone else will laugh with me. Maybe you've already had an Isaac in your life. Maybe you've already had an experience that God told you something you didn't think it would happen, and then God showed you that He promised you something that you thought was impossible, but it became possible. What can you laugh about today that God has done in your life or for your life that you thought at the time was impossible? Whatever it is, remember those moments. Remember when God told you something you didn't think it was going to come to pass because of X, Y, Z, and then God showed you who He is. He came in, He showed it, He showed up, He showed out. He showed you the power and the authority of His word. You remember those times and you stand on those promises. You remember those times to persevere through times that are difficult. You remember those times to testify to other people, this is the God I serve. This is what happened to me. You remember those times so that you can mature in the knowledge of God, that you can help others to learn about the power and authority of God, so that they can laugh with you, so that they can see, wow, that is an amazing experience. I cannot believe that God told you this, and I would have thought the same thing. I would have thought it was impossible too, and I can see with my own eyes that God did this for you. Let's laugh. Let's be joyous together, because that's the God we serve. What can someone share in your laughter about? How strong of a testimony is that? To share laughter with someone, to say, you're never going to believe what happened to me. I was praying about this. I felt like God told me this, but it sounded so crazy and crazy impossible, because you know me, I can't physically do this, mentally do this. I'm too old. I'm too whatever it is. But this is what God did in my life. Isn't that amazing? Share that experience with other people so that they can laugh with you. They always say laughter is contagious, right? Let God's promises, let God's power and authority, let God show up and show out in your life, and let that laughter be contagious. I love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.